Hey there, and welcome to Connect the Dots Learning Center podcast. I'm Stephanie Wagers, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're a seasoned therapist, clinic owner, or just starting out, this podcast is your go to spot for insights, tips, and stories that'll help you connect the dots in your practice. Today, I'm sitting down with Kokeb McDonald, pediatric occupational therapist, author, and the brilliant mind behind the Reflex Integration Through play method. She's been helping kids thrive since 2004, and she's on a mission to make motor reflex integration easy, fun, and accessible for parents and professionals alike. We're talking all about how movement and play can unlock a child's full potential. If you've ever wondered how reflexes impact development, this one's for you. Welcome, Kokeb McDonald. I'm super excited to chat with you today about everything that you've done in the reflex world and in pediatrics. Let's just kind of start with your background, where you got where you are today.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Kokeb McDonald. I am an occupational therapist, pediatric occupational therapist, an author, and the founder of Reflex Integration Through Play program. I got into what I'm doing right now. I started a clinic way back a while back, 2011 or so. But before that, how I got into even working on reflex work is as a pediatric OT, as I was treating and creating treatment plan. I didn't feel like I had kind of a roadmap or a way of creating a treatment plan that is measurable, trackable, and repeatable. Really, that is the bigger thing that I was always looking for, like a treatment tool that is effective for occupational therapists.
Right.
And as I was treating or getting these caseloads and not really knowing where to begin, what am I looking at? Why am I doing this exercise? What am I measuring? Why am I playing with this kid? And why me? Why not the teacher? Why not the PE
Right.
instructors? You know, so we're doing all these tasks that other professionals or other team can do. Like why as a therapist, why am I here? I
Mhm.
think that guided me into research. This was 2005.
Okay.
2005, doing more research, and I came across reflex work by Maskadova and the
Mhm.
MNRA program. And this is before Maskadova moved here, and went to one of the class. And when she was visiting the Bay Area, Dr. Maskadova, and learned about reflexes. It just made sense. It was like a light bulb that went out
Yeah.
for me, and it made sense. Like I understood what sensory integration was and how to measure and like what to look at,
Wow.
how to I didn't understand sensory integration as much. It didn't make sense. I mean, in theory, I read it, but it
Mhm.
didn't make sense to me until I understood reflex pattern. And it made sense, like, oh, sensory trigger and reflex, motor
Mhm.
response, physical response. It just made sense in my head.
Okay.
And since then, I literally everything I incorporated reflex work in my session. And but as an OT, I needed mainly functional based and play based.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we're always working. I did my MNRA work as well with my private clients. We have it on the table, physical manipulation and passive work. But then when my OT clinic and my OT clients were, seeing OT sessions, then you want functional and you want play based and you want measurable goals. So how do you observe that? So after several years of working on it, so I can like literally I can see it and the way people move. So
Wow.
start
Wow.
start working on like, okay, you can do this. It's in a play base. It is play as a child's occupation. It is functional. And when they're moving, everything they're doing, like it's movement, and it's functional skill. And how do I observe that? So even in our program, we train the my hope for them is like, I want you to come in a classroom or go to a play structure, watch the clients and screen constantly. Like, what do you see? Why is the child is moving that way? Can you
Mhm.
see the trigger and can you see the movement pattern?
Mm. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that's kind of my biggest beef sometimes with some of the reflex stuff out there is like they'll just pass out a home program for something and, do a cat cow or do this or that. And it's like it's not very functional and no child is going to want to do that. So does your program, it sounds like, integrate those ideas but into play?
Yes. So the way you want to engage the kids are like you can, depending on the child, you can do like if I have older kids or when I'm working with adults, you can say, here is your exercise, 1 to 10,
Right.
whatever, and they will do it. With the child, you want to come in and more of a play-based. Like if I'm playing with you and I can engage you, I can engage you. That's what we do in OT sessions, right? We do
Right.
play-based, right? So that's what we do. That's where my idea came from. I was like, that's what I've been doing as an
Right.
OT. And then how do I assess doing those session? And then why, like in every exercises that you do, why are you giving this specific exercise? If I
Mhm.
come into your session, that you using the equipment that in your sessions, right? You're playing ball, you're doing this, you're in the swing. And why are you doing that? What are you measuring? Constantly being able to have a quick answer for yourself, like, oh, I'm doing this activity and I'm specifically checking these things. And if a child cannot move a certain way, I can easily know what's happening
Right.
in his body.
Can you kind of explain the process? What happens when a child is doing a reflex activity or exercise? What is happening in the brain? How does it integrate the reflex over time?
And every movement that a child is doing, some kind of reflex is always being triggered. Like any functional development, functional movement, developmental milestone, any kind of movement, right? So if I'm moving my head, if I turn like this, I'm triggering reflexes left and right, right? If
Right.
I'm doing this, I'm triggering something, right?
Mhm.
So you cannot stop that unless you have the child still like a board on the
Okay.
ground. Something is being triggered. And in the play-based, multiple reflexes are being triggered. When a baby's, born in the birthing canal, like as they coming out, reflexes are being triggered, like constantly everything. So it's not like one thing happening one at a time. Um,
Mhm.
but however, and when we're doing session, we can intentionally, like if I'm like looking at for some, I want to see specific reflex trigger and I wanted to see whether or not the motor response is there, I can do that so I can observe it. So
Okay.
you can do that. Um, so it's going to be like if anybody says like, oh, you're only going to trigger one reflex, it's going to be really difficult to do that
Right.
if they're constantly moving. So the way we will work on it is like when you're working with your child, and especially if they have movement challenge, coordination challenge, certain symptoms, right? Like difficulty visually tracking,
Mhm.
being able to catch a ball, like name any goal you're probably working on. You
Right.
can, you can by detecting like, okay, what reflex pattern am I looking at when I give this functional skill or activity? What possible reflexes are being triggered? What am I asking the body to do?
Mhm.
What is the functional movement pattern? And what is the efficiency, like what's movement efficiency? Then I
Mhm.
can be able to look at and start assessing. So an RITP, so we go through like anatomy, like how does the body move? What's movement efficiency? We kind of have to remember that. Um,
Yes.
you have to remember that. So now way you can start to look at, I'm like, okay, in order for me to write, my movement should only come from my hand, my hand muscles and
Mhm.
my bones. I should not be moving from the shoulder. Like now I'm compensating. I shouldn't be
Mhm.
like doing this. I should have like wrist extension and all of those kind of things. And I should
Mhm.
not have movement overflow if I'm super efficient with my
Right.
movement. If I'm not efficient, then I have a lot of carryovers and other things are happening. Then
Okay.
you can use reflex pattern even to assess those if you're familiar with the different reflex patterns. If you see
Mhm.
this, my mouth is opening when my hand is cutting, then I'm seeing
Right.
what is that? Now you like the new book I wrote that's like the mouth and hand coordination coming together. It's like what reflex pattern does that? Why does the body move a certain way? So you can start to assess that.
You're looking at the dysfunctional patterns that they're doing that are indicating, which reflex is kind of that hiccup that's holding them back. I mean, the reflexes are there all the time.
Yeah,
right?
the reflex
But
will be there. It should be dormant, right? Like after a
right.
while, it should not be triggered. I should
Hmm.
so to go back for people who like the first time they're hearing about it, what reflex patterns or what reflex is, think of it like each reflex pattern has a sensory trigger and a motor response.
Okay.
So a physical response.
Hmm.
So these reflexes, I can trigger them specifically. Like I want to trigger the ATNR. ATNR is triggered by head movement.
Hmm.
Palmograph is triggered by this, touching, grasping. Motor reflex, the head going back or feeling threatened, falling. STNR, head extension. Like there's so many. So the entire body we've mapped with reflex patterns. And it's survival. The baby needs to have it so the first year of life they can survive because that's how nature had it. Without it, they don't eat, they don't suck, they don't breathe, they don't go pee, they can't do anything without it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nature's beautiful, right? It's nature giving them. Then afterwards, with them moving, this cute movement patterns that they do, exploring, learning, myelination will happen. So more intentional movement starts to happen. Like now I'm intentionally moving. Now I'm more coordinated. I'm not just guided by these reflexes. That's
Hmm.
kind of what we want to see. And then they become more fluid. So that's why they need a lot of uh, opportunity to move all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
That's how their brain develop. Not being, structured and not have just in class sitting down for the little ones, like, hey, if you want to really do well in fine motor, make sure that they do the gross motor really well, the crossing
Right.
and all that. Um, so that's kind of what we're looking at.
That makes
So
sense.
that's just the basic of what
Yeah.
reflexes are. And then later on, what you want to see is these movement pattern will become dormant. They'll always be there. Like if you have a
Hmm.
head injury, stroke, trauma, and it can get to the point that they will come back. Like if you work with adults, you see them responding to these specific reflexes.
Right.
And then you have the turn, you see them moving a certain way, the Babinski, all that, tests that you can do. You can see that you have to do a rehab on them. Now they have to relearn to walk, relearn to do all these kind of things because of the brain damage. So they
Yeah.
don't go away. We need them. They're building blocks
Hmm.
for
That
any
makes sense.
functional, that kind of functional skill that we're working on. So when they come to us as an OTs, they come to us, oh, the child can't sit still, or they can't write, they can't copy from the board. And for me, at the beginning of my OT career, it's like, what, where do I start? So we do assessment, and then with you have to check the developmental milestone assessment, the structured assessment that you have, a standardized assessment, and then we look at reflex pattern. If we see them, do we not see them? We do developmental movement patterns as well.
Hmm.
Can they do it? Are they fluid? Are they, moving really well? We check that as well. And then the symptoms checklist too, we want to see like, okay, what kind of other behaviors too? Because after a while, it's not just the physical we're looking at, we're also looking at the child as holistically. Because
Hmm.
now the child is growing, they have
Right.
personality, how they function in the world. So we also have to bring that, the child's interest, where are they interested, and then create a goal that works for them, and then work from the bottom up as much as possible.
Hmm.
Like you can start accommodating, but then the best one is if you can create a plan that really, you go all the way to the baseline and you start working on it. So
Yeah.
everything else becomes easier and easier instead of like
Right.
spending too much energy on top. Like, why not just do the little bit extra work, go to
Build the
the
foundation. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to
so,
crumble.
and then you realize like it's actually you don't even have to work with other skill. Like I don't have to go skill to skill. That's kind of how I felt at first as an OT. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there working on writing and writing. I'm sitting there tying shoes. I'm like,
It's
why?
not working. Yeah.
You know what? Is there something else I can do that can kind of fasten this process a little bit? Like
Yeah.
a skill therapist, I can
Mhm.
easily say, maybe the nanny can tie this one. Let me, if you're spending this much amount of money, let me at least do something better to help,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
So that was like, the mental thoughts that I was having. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why? Like so I needed to understand. So it got me into researching a lot more. And this path was the one that just totally made sense to me. And then long story short, I was doing it for my own session. I just never thought of writing books, but this is how I treated for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
And then I think 2018 or 19, like have neck and back injury of my own. I can really treat. So I started reducing my own sessions, and it became session was not as fun because I don't get to do everything my own
Right.
injury. So it was unexpectedly, as my husband's like, just start a website and share your thoughts. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
sure. And I'm like, maybe if I have a website, maybe I should like, create something that people want so they can come.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, as I figure out what I want to do in my life, like let me just give some information. And one thing led to another, the idea of like writing a book and creating my treatment plans and then giving it to parents because at that point I was trying to do home program for my own kids,
Okay.
doing a very intensive work, and it was just harder with my own. And I realized, oh my gosh, if I cannot do it as an OT and I'm
Yes.
trained,
How am
and
I going
how
to ask a
hard is
parent
it?
to do this?
Yeah. So I was like, I have 5 or 10 minutes, you know? So I'm gonna create a program like parents can easily do. Like even if they don't know anything, just do
Mhm.
this like for 5, 10 minutes. I guarantee you there will be a result. Like you give your therapist a faster result if you carry
Right.
over. So the idea came from what can I give someone who has no background, easy tool, functional, play-based. What would I give a parent to do without
Mm.
overwhelming them?
Yeah.
So that's how the book started. And then I was writing it, I wanted it to be more like I want pictures that are a nonverbal can understand. So
Is that
that
your cards?
that was all the images in the book. So when I was talking to a
Okay.
designer, I was telling him like, okay, I want a child who's like a nonverbal, a parent with a nonverbal, like we can show them, like I want it to anatomically to be correct. Like I don't
Yes.
want to be a cartoonish picture.
Right.
I want it to be like I want it to be exactly how the body moves. So still, it took a while to get that because it was like that look like a cartoon, but I want it to be like the body doesn't move a certain way. It has to be like correct. So that was one of the thing, and I tested it out with my some of my kids that I was working with at that point. Like they will not take on session. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one of, I think that's why I knew like I was like, oh, this is gonna be helpful as one of my client who would not like do a lot of exercise. He just grabbed the book and went through it. And then he said, that one, I will do that one. I was like, this is gonna work. So it made it's so easy. That's, the
Yeah.
idea. I'm like, okay, we can keep, working on
Yeah.
that. And people start asking for videos and we start doing the app, like doing it like creating the app.
Yeah. Can we talk about the app? I was looking at your website and is it something that the parent has, the therapist has, or both? And would the therapist prescribe like, hey, do these three things, and then it would pop up on the parent's app? How
Yeah.
does that work?
So originally it was only available for my certificate therapists inside to create treatment plans. So we
Yeah.
can kind of make sure that we don't overwhelm a person coming in. So the front design was made that way. Right now, we have it available now for anybody because one of the reason actually it was because people worldwide, like we get reached out to access our resources, but books are so expensive for
Mhm.
people to get to ship to them. They can
Mhm.
afford it. The shipping is more expensive than the
Yeah.
books. And it was ridiculous. So we made the app available right now so that anybody can get the app. And
Okay.
we highly recommend parents to have a specialist working with them. Otherwise, we have like 100 plus, a lot of exercises there. So they're going to be lost
Right.
in,
They're going to need that guidance of what
yeah.
you're seeing, which direction to go. Yeah.
Yeah. We are in the process of updating it and making sure that the front facing will have like guided
Hmm.
instruction
Hmm.
for, so actually the team is actually making a change right now
Hmm.
because now that we're having everybody getting it,
Yeah.
to making it easy. So the way it's created is to create unlimited, like the therapist, if you get it as a therapist, you can create unlimited playlist inside of
Okay.
it. Then if your parent has the app, you can create a treatment plan and send it to them. You can say like, I want little Johnny to do this exercise. So we have what we're doing is a done for you exercise that you don't have to rely on the parent to do correctly to teach the kid.
Right. And then trying to draw it out and be like,
Yeah, it's like, how
my
do you
stick
do
figure
it?
skills
Yeah.
are really bad. Yeah.
So all the instruction, what to look for and everything, we have it scripted there.
Mhm.
So all you need to do is like you try it out on your session. Of course, you don't want to recommend something you've not done, right? So
Yes.
write it down, and
Yeah.
then you say like, okay, you can say like, just do these two exercises, like as depending on the client. Some parents can do more. You can send them out, and the kid can turn it on with, show it to them, and they can do that. We
So
have our
the kiddo can work along with the video.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, which they probably love
Yeah,
because
they
it's
like
free.
seeing. Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
I do have my session and I just pull it out because I
Yeah.
can pull out reflex if I'm trying to target something. And then I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, let me show you something. Which one do you want to do? And then they were like, that one. And they look at it and then we do the exercise. In the school, you can create a playlist for a kid for movement break. They can use
Hmm.
that. So if the therapist can create, okay, this little Johnny, whatever, this
Hmm.
is they go and they can do their movement break. They know exactly. It's just having it in one place for our
Right.
therapists to making the easier for them, so they
Yeah.
don't have to go and create their own, and then they're sending it. It's a one place, and we constantly are adding it. We have our school program. We use it for our school program as well in the classroom. We have
So it's
movement break.
designed more for like a teacher to use with the kids or
Yeah.
okay.
So we just
Nice.
added that piece of it in there too, so the teachers can have it
Hmm.
in the classroom. That piece of it is scripted too, and it teaches the class. So the teacher will go and then can pick. That feature is on a desktop as well as on the app as
Right.
well. So we actually are releasing the school program and training for everyone this month as well.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
that. We've been testing it and using it for about 2+ years. I just
Hmm.
never had the time to actually
Yeah.
start sharing
Push it
it,
up.
push it out. So we're finally going to do that. So they can use that, and if the parent and the teacher can also say like, "Hey, I've been working with Johnny, whatever," and then right, so the parents will have access. If they have access to it, they can
Hmm.
say, "Hey, can you do this at home?" Just do
Nice.
this is the exercise we've been doing. Have them do these exercise at home.
Yeah.
So everyone is at one place. They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
not confused.
Hmm.
I mean,
Because you can
so
say it a little bit differently or show it a little bit differently, and then it's just like the message
yeah.
is gone and misinterpreted.
And then you're
Yeah.
not relying on you having that energy to exercise that day to do it correctly. There's something, you're lost in translation. Kind of.
Hmm.
It will
Hmm.
happen. Either your energy is low, or the parent is doing it incorrectly, or
Yeah.
you're not focused on the kid because you're doing the exercise next to them
Yes.
instead of looking at or assisting them.
Yeah.
There's so
That makes
many
a lot of
aspects.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I've got so many questions for you, but one, thinking back, you're talking about kids integrate reflexes through movement, and we know that kids get way less movement and outside play. Are you seeing a huge uptick in unintegrated reflexes and then what is that looking like in the clients that you're seeing?
Yes, unfortunately, because more and more kids now are on screen,
Hmm.
they're not we just need more movement.
Yeah.
Like even in kindergarten, like I came in a session and they were the concern is like, oh, these kids are not writing, or they're not making the
Yeah.
X. And after I did a quick screen, I'm like, actually, I know it doesn't sound like
Yeah.
we're not working on your goal, but what I actually want you to focus on these gross motor exercise. I gave her more of the movement, big movement
Mm-hmm.
exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, if because they don't even know left and right. They can't cross
No,
midline.
I
So
can't.
you can't expect them to sit there and write for you. They're
Mm-hmm.
not sitting and they're not focusing. Like what for their age, they're all five at that class. I was like, for their age, actually less on the fine motor, more on the
Yeah.
gross big movement, and you get more for your effort.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it because as a teacher, you feel like sit him down, do this,
Yeah. Don't
But I'm
move,
like,
don't move. Yeah.
yeah, but it's actually is the movement. So yes, you do see that. You do see with the less restricted they
Mm-hmm.
are, they don't get to move, and then you see the effect of it.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. How do we get that information? Like it's so huge, right? Our education system is not how kids develop. And it's like if they would just speak with an OT, pediatric OT,
Yeah.
and change things, kids could thrive. But where would you even recommend going to kind of educate people about that? Because just like every time you have to tell a teacher, it's another
Yeah.
20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, what I saw even with this teacher is like it's one of those things, it's like just test it out. I will say. Like I'm like, I know it doesn't sound like I'm not addressing your concern right now.
Mhm.
But just test it out. Like let's give it like 4 weeks. Like let's just do this movement. I promise you that the next level is going to work. Or like I have physically have to show the teacher. I'm like, do you
Yeah.
see that this child doesn't even understand left and right?
Hmm.
So not ask the higher, like I have to go to their level of understanding and
Hmm.
and then almost say like just give me 4 weeks. Just do this 2 weeks. At least give me at least 2 weeks. Like every morning, your morning meeting, like and then I've tried to figure out with this teacher. I said, like, what do you do in a day? I'm like, I'll have morning meeting. Okay, for you, don't even worry about the app or whatever. During your morning meeting, everybody gets up and you do this exercise, drill it, and like just start with this every day. Um, and then they see the result. And then
Yeah.
then I have
And
their,
then they're excited. Then they get it.
then
Then you
you're
have their
like,
attention. Yeah.
okay, because the concern is now I'm making me do something and I'm going to be even way behind,
Right.
right? So I have to almost give them a result to make, I'm like, I'm giving you like the fastest way to get there. And it does,
Hmm.
I can say like, I know it doesn't seem like it, but trust me on this one, and
Yeah.
then they see that because the brain will catch on.
What, if anything, can you think of that is like either a symptom, observation that you see often that people wouldn't relate it back to, like, oh, that's actually a reflex integration problem?
So the way I do it, like we can break it down to reflex pattern, and then if you don't see it, and I go to the developmental progression. So
Okay.
for every skill, there is a natural developmental progression. For the hand, there's a development for right, all that. And I will look at that. The recent one I saw in a school is a teacher being frustrated, like this kid puts everything in the mouth and it's
Mhm.
gross and he doesn't listen um, and then they're frustrated. And then it's also a safety issue because he was putting things, sharp objects, in his mouth
Yikes.
too. But then when you ask him, rocks and everything, and then when you call him and be like, "Hey, what's in your mouth?" And he's like, it's almost like a little surprised that it's in his mouth.
Like, oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. Um, so it becomes like a frustration, a battle struggle. And then that was, I have to say, like, okay, come here in front of the teacher. And I did a screen on the,
Yeah.
rooting reflex stuff. You can see, he's like reacting, right?
Interesting.
And then I'll say, like, I'm like, do you see that? And then I
Yeah.
explain, this is actually a reflexive and, um, a reflex move pattern. Um, well, like you do in the the Balkan, for instance, too. It's like you press something, the palm, and then the mouth opens. It's connected to the child um, exploring.
Hmm.
They're just stuck in certain kind of developmental
Hmm.
progression. They didn't move on. So, and that way I can say like trying to explain the behavior to the primitive development.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he's willfully trying to put that sharp object in the mouth.
Right.
It's also to have some kind of for the person to have compassion or feel, oh, that's actually life must be hard. Like if
Yes.
body's responding, that's just one thing you look at. If and usually if have one thing that's being retained, it affects other things too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you can see with that, or another one people can might misunderstand with behavior can be like a child, like you catch them by surprise, and their
Hmm.
tendency is like to go and to smack you or like react very aggressively
Hmm.
because they felt like they heightened, scared because
Hmm.
they can be tend to be like, okay, that child in his behavior hits everyone. And but then sometimes when you do check the moral reflex with
Yeah.
that and then the auditory processing, they go into a fight or flight. It's like all of a sudden before you know it, somebody comes behind you and scare you. And then how do you respond? Not lovingly, right? So you're
No.
right? But imagine if your body's constantly on alert like that. Now, not
Right.
only is that's a one-time thing, you don't walk around thinking somebody's about to scare me, right?
Hmm.
So now they're going to this level of now I'm on guard. I'm constantly someone is like I'm anticipating. Now I'm looking for it. Like there's
Yeah.
a behavior emotional component. To even those to explain like, okay, what levels we can start to see. Yes, the behavior, we need to deal with that, obviously, because
Hmm.
that's the accommodation, the top to bottom piece of it. But the rest is like, let's also understand, have compassion, like how this bo person is living in this constantly on threatened body, like,
Hmm.
and kind of help them feel it a bit so they
Yeah.
can have some sympathy.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. I always feel like we need to explain what it might feel like for that person. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah,
ah,
imagine
yeah.
that. Like, like
Yeah.
imagine.
No wonder
Then
their intention's horrible.
yeah, so you're always trying to process, they're super overwhelmed, and then they become like the behavior child, and then now you're dealing with the behavior and you never dealt with you never fixed the problem of the
Right.
body. Right?
Yeah.
And then the brain is like, I'm constantly on alert. You can't tell me to focus and learn. I'm constantly anxious. Now we have the
Yeah.
anxious generation happening too, right? So there's that. And then
Yeah.
how do you address with, you know, there's so many things.
So many things. So
And
many
seating,
things.
and another common one would be like walking in a classroom and looking at like 10 different way of postures. The way
Mm.
so, and then you can really start to map out. I'm like, okay, you can see different reflex pattern depending on which one is the strongest in their
Hmm.
body, the posture
Okay.
they pick and how they compensate. Or if they're wiggly ones, they sit on their heels, or they're super slouchy, or they're like all that.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about your course a little bit. If someone were to go through your course, I mean, are they going to be able to just go through and identify all these things that you're talking about? Because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so with the course it's set up, the certification program is a whole program. So I've not pulled it out like individually. They do it because I feel like they have to have everything
Yeah. And it's
together.
26 hours, right?
Actually, 26 plus. I have more.
Oh my goodness. And they're all videos like
Yeah,
online.
if you're
Okay.
if like so what for the certification piece of it, it's about 26 hours or so. But then inside of it, I do have a lot of supplemental trainings I add because there's so much more that
Yeah.
you so if we don't say you have to watch everything. We say like here are all the resources for you, use it as you will.
Hmm.
But there's so much, right, to
Yeah.
consider. And skill takes time to develop. So at least for the certification piece of it, yes, it's about 26 plus hours and it's AOTA approved and
Hmm.
you can get your worth 2 years worth of
I
CEUs.
was going to say you can get a lot of CEUs for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. And we have coaching calls and make sure that your treatment plan is
Is that part of the certification? Because I noticed you've got like Zoom calls and all. So if you were to purchase the certification or the course, then what else comes with that? The Zoom calls, coaching.
yeah, so the certification, I go through the reflex patterns, we go to developmental milestone, we go to anatomy movement patterns, understanding how the body moves, and
Hmm.
you need to know that or
Hmm.
remember. And
Remember, yeah.
you've
We knew that at one
totally,
point.
yeah, you've gone through it. So have that, and then clinical screening observation, we do treatment planning, creating treatment plan and implementation, and then creating homeschool home program because you want to work as a team so you get
Mhm.
faster result. Like you have to
Right.
think of, okay, now we have a team. Your client, the child is not the only one. So now the parent becomes part of the team and this teacher is a team. And how can you create a program that you can have everyone doing it? And then you get faster results
Hmm.
for your kids.
Hmm.
Um, as part of the certification program is you come in, right now we just updated it, that you come in and we have to go through the process and then be able to create a treatment plan. I'll walk you through it. And then we have monthly Q&A calls and Zoom calls that you come in and create your treatment plan. So the reason I have it in the way that I packaged it is because I believe in um, coaching and implementation. And I don't really believe in taking online course and being like, I got it, like
Yeah.
it's a whole
Because you
new,
always have questions, right? You
yeah,
leave
a
and you're
whole,
like, I got this. And then you're like, wait a minute, what? How am I supposed
yeah,
to do that? Or that's
yeah.
not what she said was going to happen.
Yeah, and then I tested the kid. The skill happens on the floor when you're with your kid.
Mhm.
So I want the therapist to actually go and implement it, screen, and then get a waiver from their parents, bring the videos, and we watch it and
Mhm.
look at the case and create a treatment plan, do the treatment plan, problem solve, where is the child's at, and then get result. So and then create a home program, send out a home program for parents, what they can do. So some of the therapists package the whole program and use our products, which is we totally fine with. That's what we want it to be done anyways,
Mhm.
like to package what we have for them.
Mhm.
And with our resources, they create treatment plan, and then we help them with. Well, I personally help them with implementing that. So if they have questions, we have Zoom calls like
Okay.
we get in like this live, and then
Yeah.
you share your screen, and then we watch the session, and then we look at the screening, how to go. Okay, this is what we're looking at, and for the clients that they work with is great because now they have multiple therapists looking at your child and
Yeah. And learning.
learning.
Right.
Yeah, they're learning, and you do the best when you actually implement it, and
Hmm.
that's how you know you've learned something. And skill does take a long time
It
to
does. Yeah.
to retain. So part of it includes the coaching program, and then once you go through the certification plan, we have the supplemental trainings as a bonus. We added
Hmm.
to the program because there's so much more to consider as OT. You have to do goal setting, right? So
Yeah.
we have to do like visual skills. So that's a whole nother thing. Fine motor, that's a whole nother. So I just want to make sure that whoever goes through my program get the whole set
The whole
of
thing.
every
Yeah.
resource that I have.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that, I offer is like if you go through my certification program, you get everything in the
Yeah.
back end.
How long do they have access to the coaching for?
Right now, 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
Okay.
So you go through 6 months. We tested it out. It used to be 12 months.
Uh-huh.
But I noticed like people are just active and then they're busy. I'm like,
They're not showing up. Yeah.
so I'm like, you might as well like making it easier for people to incentivize them, like, okay, do this right now and
Yeah.
make sure you show up. But afterwards, our therapists are welcome to stay as a members setup. So
Hmm.
they're once they're finished, they can stay with us too. So they continue to have access to training, and the future courses that when we do, they have access to all that.
Gotcha. Do you have any sort of like offer that a clinic could purchase where they could put multiple therapists through it?
Yeah, so we have clinics come to us.
Hmm.
And I love that. That's how I actually started the
Yeah.
program. Is I went in and I taught the clinic as a whole.
Right.
So if the clinic comes to us, depending on the number of therapists, so
Hmm.
they directly will talk to us, and then we give them like a group clinic offer that we give them.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, we also provide them with the licensing for the app. So what they do is they can use the app as part of their home program they set up, or we have individual therapists, they do that too. So
Hmm.
it could be that part of your offer for your therapist, like you're creating a home program, you have all these things. So they just have a bulk access, and then they create their own program in the back end. And then the good thing is, so they can still come to us and problem solve, right? So they
Mhm.
okay, there's this client, so that during our call is when they can come and we actually look at cases. And
Right.
yeah,
Right. So for the clinic piece, what is it, you coming to the clinic, or are they learning online? Just like
it's
you said,
all
they
online.
all
Yeah.
online. Mhm.
So it's all online, and if depending on the clinic, there's once in a while that with the clinic will say like, hey, can you just do a one-off one time? You can come in. So we have like a side, if you need like actually want you to come in and this one and do like a brief thing.
Training.
So that is a different kind of offer. But right now, yeah. So you can
Yeah.
have
Yeah. I mean, I really like the online piece because you can go back and watch it. And then how long do you have access to the course? Is
as
it
long as they want to stay with us, so we can
okay? So
the
they
six
need to
months.
stay in the membership past that 6 months then.
Yeah, so or
Yeah.
and then we have like so for the membership piece that we offer only for our certification program on
Oh,
so we offer that so that we have like a discounted rate so they can kind of keep them because one of the reason that I like doing that is I'm constantly improving. So
hmm.
I'm constantly accessing
Yeah.
trainings and the workshop that we do for them and also the tools and everything that I create is for my therapist. So I'm constantly asking them like, what do you need? What do you want? um,
Right.
so that whatever that helps that their clinic is what's gonna eventually gonna help another clinic.
And then you have books. You have multiple books, and you
Yeah.
said you just got another one published.
Yes.
Yes.
The sixth one published.
Nice. And how many pages is that one?
This one.
When are you doing this, Kokeb? Do you sleep?
I do. This one is with the reference and everything is 177.
Okay.
With this one, this one took me a while. Um, because and I even got a therapist who was like, love my program. She reached out and was like, how can I help you? And I was like, okay, help me do research. So she helped me with the research and I was like palmar grasp and then it became like it's not enough. But she was I was like bouncing
Mhm.
back ideas with her too, like in the added hands pulling and Babkin, because I wanted to target every reflex pattern that is triggered around the palm or on the palm because
Yeah.
it's not like you can easily isolate. If I'd say
Right.
palmar grasp, but then somebody's saying like, well, my kid always opens the mouth. I'm like, okay, Babkin. So now
Mhm.
we can kind of package it in a way that it makes more sense. And yeah, so it took me a while to say like we went and a little bit in depth in anatomy because I thought it was important and yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do sleep, but but I love creating and it's so funny. From my perspective, I can feel like it's not fast enough, but then I guess it can also feel like I'm doing a lot.
Yeah. You got a lot of great stuff out there. That's fantastic. What else is up your sleeve? Or do I even want to know?
So I'm excited about finally having the school program available because so far we've been so
Mhm.
focused on the clinical part of it and the therapist. So that's what I've been doing. Now we're gonna make the school program available for our OTs who work with school, and then some schools have been reaching out too. It's only
Right.
been available for our certificate therapists. So we finally decided because therapists are asking, like, I'm already trained in MNRI and RMTI, all these trainings. Like, I really don't need a certification, but I want your tools. So I
Hmm.
started thinking about how can I pull it out and make it still useful for them. So we decided, like, okay, we're going to start one of the part of the course out. That like the fifth one talks about school program and home program, and that is going to be available this month. So we're actually working on the landing page and everything, making it available for them. So that's what we're doing. And what else? We're gonna focus on the parents. Parents been asking a lot as well.
Yeah.
So making the parent training. piece of it available. And then we're gonna have our app, we're gonna update it so that everyone will have a free feature that we're working on to access it. So at least have all our resources and
Mm-hmm.
everything for anyone who's reaching to get resource or support and have some kind of access to it.
Yeah.
So in that way that we can still support them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're working on that. Those are the projects that are coming up this year soon. And then in person, we're gonna do in-person training finally.
Are you?
I'm
So
finally
you're gonna have people come to you.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say it out loud, so I'll force myself to
Okay.
do it. That's how I usually do things. I'm gonna just say it out and I'm like, okay, now I have to do this.
You're gonna call me tomorrow and be like, delete that part.
I don't delete that part. No, I think I'm gonna do it because I created this program during COVID. Usually the way it happens, usually they create something in person and they go online, which is a harder transition. I don't know which one is hard, honestly,
Yeah.
but this happened to me during COVID. So everything was online.
Uh-huh.
My first book came out end of like November 2019. Like the moral came out like so 2020 we're in lockdown, so all the other books came during COVID. So online, even the clinics, I was friends of mine, I was asking them, what do you need? They said, like, come train my therapist. It's not like they're right here, but I can't go in person, so it was
Right.
online. Everything ended up
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I have all these things set up, now people are asking, can you do in person? So we're gonna do in person.
How many days would it be?
I try, it's 26 hours, right?
I
So
know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, that's 4-day course.
yeah, so what I think, I sat down and thought through it, like to make it really good, I want them to get the most out of it. I I'm shooting for 3
Mm-hmm.
because if I can make the online program also somewhat accessible to them, so we can do more hands-on, then 3 days should be good. And then,
Yeah.
of course, I believe in carryover and then having some kind of forum that they can still reach out while they
Mm-hmm.
implement. Because I don't know how much of it they're gonna remember. You forget like 80% of what you heard
Right.
anyway.
Yeah. I know it's pathetic.
I know, like I got it. And then you go to a session, you forget everything. So,
Well, I love what you're doing. It's been fantastic to talk with you today.
yeah.
Anything I didn't ask that you want to share?
Uh, Oh yeah, so for OT specifically, um, I think what I really something that I want to push is to be curious and learn about functional and play-based approach and being open-minded and realize learning like how can we implement these modalities in our session to work on the goal that we're working on. Reflex integration on its own, it's not a standalone kind of approach. It's just one
Mm-hmm.
modality that you're going to
Mm-hmm.
use. Um, think holistically and don't get stuck on a one reflex pattern, forget the kid. And
Right.
we're not really targeting that reflex movement. We test you, a bunch of you have some retained reflex. That's
Yes.
just how it is. It's not super scary to have a
And
reflex.
you're functioning. So,
Yes. Yeah. It's just like, how can we get you more functional and more efficient?
Mhm.
Why are you compensating? We are really looking at the same thing you probably are looking at. This is just giving you a roadmap or a blueprint, like really naming and identifying what you're looking at. Um, you're looking at still developmental milestone. You're looking at the functional movement patterns. You're looking at efficiency. Um, and it makes sensory integration way easier to understand. At least it did for me.
Yeah, I can see your connection now because I'm SIP certified and it's like you got it and then it goes out the window and like, wait, you're trying to, but I can see they just kind of, it's like two plugs coming together.
Yeah, it's like this. Like they asked me in the class, so I'm like, how about sensory integration, reflex integration? I said, I don't separate them. You
No,
can't
there's,
have
yeah,
one without the other. You don't have
right.
you have reflex response because there's a sensory trigger. That's just how the brain is. The problem becomes like the body either does not recognize the sensory trigger, it's not responding, or it's giving you the wrong response. That's then you'd be like, oh, it should not be responding that way. It should be responding this. Now I know what I'm working on. It's not there's no one size fits all treatment. It's not like reflex integration or nothing works. It's not that. There you still have to consider the holistic child. You still have to look into gut health too, because that's another brain.
Yes,
Our gut is another
huge.
brain. So it's not just one thing. It's
Yeah,
just an important thing.
it's a portion of it. It's an important piece, yes, but you have to look at the whole picture. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.